I ain't gonna lie, this is the craziest title I've ever seen in my life. Not the craziest title, but I already know what we're getting into. If white men were 100% honest, we just gonna figure it out. I don't really know what's going on. Everybody got a mask on. You don't know. Everybody just wanna, hide their face.
We brought together 7 strangers, protected their identities, and created a space. We brought together 7 strangers, protected their identities, and created a space for them to be completely honest. What will be revealed when they take the mask off?
I don't think Malik was weird, to be honest.
Everyone
Sometimes
is racist, including me.
Hell no. What was the button?
I'm not, nobody wants to think of themselves as racist, and I don't think that I'm racist in the way that I think we think about racism, but I think I took the question as these inherent biases that everybody has, and I think most of the time, most people are not aware of this.
It's weird. I think there's this new generational divide of you are a racist or you said a racist thing. And I don't know where the line is. You might say something a little racist or something you don't see as racist, someone calls you out and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, apologize. And if you argue that point against them, then I would say you're a racist. But if you understand, you come to understanding, you learn, everyone should be able to forgive that person and be like, no, you made a mistake. People make mistakes. I don't know. I feel like
this was on YouTube. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think a really important thing that kind of is tough with cancel culture right now is that road to redemption. And so after you've said something wrong, how do you make yourself right again in the public sphere? At least personally, I feel like I don't see that a lot with cancel culture. Is if someone makes amends, there's now an acceptance hey, you did something wrong, but you're okay now, or at least better.
I think social media kind of incentivizes against redemption, and I feel like it's just outrage, and I do think people do like the rush of anger. I don't think people really believe in redemption anymore.
I just disagree with the idea of racism as a binary. It kind of goes back to that really old meme where Skipper says we did it, Mrs. Obama, racism is over. The idea of a redemption is just all right, they've fixed their racism, in the sense that I think the redemption that our society is calling for is impossible. It's almost like you need to write a check every time you make a racism, and that will absolve you of your thing, where I think what we should be doing is the idea of growth towards a better understanding.
I have struggled with my sexuality.
What? Hold on. Wait.
Sick of all the ads like this one? Just head to adskiller.com, click on Activate Now.
I felt an attraction to men really young, and I didn't connect to gay culture at all. And I was like, I'm either straight or gay. It can't be another one. So I very consciously put myself in the closet, and I didn't feel confidence to be my own person, obviously in high school. And slowly but surely, I started to come out to more people and talk about my experience and stuff. But people come out of the closet, that's one thing. That's the second step. The first step is really kind of acknowledging it and loving yourself. And that was the hardest part for me. And I'm pretty good now. I'm happy and bi.
Now, very comfortable with my sexuality, and I know it's a spectrum, but I think I'm, for the most part, straight. I struggled with depression for a long time, and I think one of the side effects of that for me was I fell into an eating disorder, and I got really skinny, and because I was struggling with an eating disorder, it made me, for some reason, question my sexuality. And I understand how messed up that is now. I started to ask myself, why did you associate that one with the other? And I think it was because it's just not largely talked about with straight men, that we can still struggle with mental health and eating disorders. I have a very core memory, somebody might say, of me walking in to my house after the first day of first grade, and I'm just like, hey mom, I think I have a crush on my friend. And my mom kind of laughed, and she's like, oh, boys don't have crushes on boys. And I was like, cool, got it, awesome. Just put that in the back of my mind. And I'm still working with the idea that if I have a crush on a man, that's not inherently disgusting, because what's more disgusting than a man wanting you? Like you said, connecting to the gay community, unless you fit
it seems the tiniest of boxes is really hard. And even now, like I went out last night and I had somebody that I kind of like caught my eye, but I had no idea how to approach that. It's like everybody else got like a manual and like 17 easy steps to not have social anxiety when in the club. And I'm just like, I guess I was sick that day. I didn't get that class. I didn't sign up for it on LinkedIn. Just, sorry, I'm using humor to cover it up. I went up to a guy and said, "You're so handsome." And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like I'm an old woman. You know, they're like, "You're so handsome." It's one of those things where it's like, oh, obviously don't say that.
Well,
It's
yeah,
like,
if you
okay,
say
but
it
then
like
what
that.
do you say? Yeah. Because like, do I not think that he's handsome? I don't know. Yeah.
Have you ever been
like
confused by consent before?
What? Y'all be with y'all sisters.
There have been instances where, in terms of friends, relationships, whatever, I can go too far because I misinterpreted consent, and just because people seem comfortable with something, you kind of go along with it.
Yeah, I think the reason I said yes was just thinking very specifically about situations where both of us have been really drunk or something like that, where it's like, it's not one person's sober and the other person's drunk and the drunk person's saying yes, but if you're both drunk and both consenting and into it in the moment, and then the next day, like I've had like neither of us really consented. Is anybody in the wrong here? And so that's kind of what I thought of when I heard I've been confused about consent. It's not as much in the moment, but after the fact in that scenario.
Jack, that situation is pretty scary because you interpret it one way, and if someone...
like, you could both be drunk and like, your drunk self wants it, but in reality, your real state don't want it. Type shit. So that could be like, have you ever been confused? That could say, agreed. If that was the case. But, I don't be getting drunk, so I have no fucking clue. I think I should be on soft if I was drunk. Me personally.
Was hurt and you didn't mean to do that, and you didn't take the precautions for that, you're still at fault, and that sucks. And I'm not saying that's your situation. Yeah. That's the kind of world we live in, where we can really get in trouble sometimes, even when we don't mean to hurt others, and it sucks.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing about consent is it's not always just like this guy being like, oh, come on. Like, there's such a finer line. There's so many gray areas that it's really important to have those conversations because, there can be so many different scenarios that are still non-consensual, so.
Women have more power than me.
I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely don't think women have more power. And I think some people might think that just because you're seeing growing relative power that, some men might not be used to. Now that women are kind of getting closer to being equal, some people that might feel like they're getting more power and they might be more powerful. And so I can understand why someone might, perceive that as relative, but absolutely I don't agree that like women have more power. I think we're getting closer to equality at this point where it's a work in progress.
I don't know. It's like a yes and no question. I was harassed by a superior who was a woman at a previous job, like repeatedly harassed. I reported it to my boss, who was a white male, and he just laughed it off and said, toughen up, Buttercup. When women are harassed, I think if I was a woman and I reported harassment, especially right now with Me Too and everything, CEO would see a huge red flag, a huge possible controversy, and like, I know there's definitely, ways when that isn't true, but for me it was just like, we don't care. You're a man, toughen up. I don't give a shit. Like, she's a woman. She can't harass you. And
we was just talking about equality.
It was really hard. I'm sorry. And I was really scared. And like, if I didn't have some, good women in my life and some good people, I wouldn't have taken action. I would have just toughened up. And I would have let it kill me inside.
Sorry that happened.
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
What's wrong with this dude, bro?
Fantasies.
Yo, fantasies?
I have a challenge for all of you. Go to every computer in your house, your mom's, your dad's, your sister, your brother's computer.
How do you fantasize about that?
Oh, okay.
So I said yes because like I can't think of a specific time, but like I believe I have at one point. It's more like role playing under very strict guidelines and with the understanding that my partner will stop if I ever get too uncomfortable. In terms of like fantasizing about actually doing the very illegal and immoral act, no. But I think, you know, like role playing or even like the fiction you read or even like to a certain extent, as long as it's ethically made, porn, like it's exploring that healthily, I think is valid. And it's something that I think I have done in the past.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I
That's what you
explore it in
watch?
porn, but like personally, no. Like it freaks me out too much. You know, I do have like this kind of feel of wanting to be dominated by.
How you feel, bro? You should be disgusted with yourself if you just finished and you finished watching that. Like, no. Like, I'm turning it. Like, no, I'm gonna have to do. Like, if I see that, I'm turning this off. I'm doing something else. Like, I can't, like, at some point, you just gotta, like, tap back into reality. Cause, no.
A man, or a woman. That's more in porn than like in real life. I feel like I'd be freaked out in real life if that happened. But
So in this situation where you're doing this, like with your partner that you stated, are you the person that is receiving this idea of
You're saying, am I playing the role of the
victim?
assailant or the victim?
Yeah, are you
The role I am playing would be that of the assailant.
of the
In
assailant?
that.
Okay.
And my partner would be the victim. Due to like social anxiety and like just a lot of things that keep me like a more like docile and submissive person, I like exploring a more dominant side via power dynamics in a safe environment, obviously.
when you're assaulted, like sexually assaulted, you don't have a choice in the matter. But when you are role playing it, you can say, like a safe word, and you have the control.
Like
but when
pegged,
it's
bro.
that control's robbed from you, it messes with you. I think that's the
Ain't
distinction
nothing wrong
with
with
the
that,
role
bro.
play.
Ain't
I
nothing
feel
wrong
like
with
we
that.
kind of have a
It's just like,
misunderstanding here. I at least think that it's really insensitive, at least, to be doing these
Raped?
role plays because you will never be able to feel what these people feel, and like,
fantasize about
kinda-
getting pegged.
kind of it's off shifting to know that that's something desired.
I understand that. And like I said, it is something like obvious. I've never experienced it. And so my fantasy kind of might come from like a position of privilege. And I think that's why I'd like to explore it in a healthy way to figure out like why exactly I feel that way. And I understand like from the outset, and even like as I explain it, it has the potential to sound like incredibly like jarring and shitty.
The way you're explaining it, though, like that's why I'm asking you questions, because I can instantly assume that you're a person. But now that I see the way you spoke to me, and you obviously have some feelings about it that you've thought to yourself over time. So, like, I just want to
I appreciate that.
And I think that the way we handled it is kind of a good way to communicate with others and understand issues.
I appreciate the way you ask the questions and stuff like that.
Thank you.
I have been abused.
I feel like. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've been. I said yes.
I've been going through it. You go through it.
No, I think I've just been abused two ways, and abused is such can mean so many things. So I've been abused emotionally in a relationship, but not physically or sexually, but definitely emotionally. And then I've been abused as like an employee to an employer. Again, not sexually or physically, but just abused their power over me.
As I talked about, I got harassed by an older female employee, and working through it, it's always a process. I don't know.
My family, we've endured emotional, physical abuse from my father, and I'm sure a lot of people can, attest and say the same things. And he lives in a whole other country now, so I don't really talk to him. And I need that guidance. When I'm going from 14 to 18 years old, that's like a really influential time. So it's really hard to have to deal with that on your own. The worst part was when I told him about some of the issues I have because I didn't have them because of the way he, hurt me. He kind of just said, "Yo, that's your fault. Like, you can't blame me for that and put it on me." I think this kind of ties into,
I think that's how
I want to bring it in how sometimes I feel like as a white man, I can't really talk about my problems because you're always been taught to suck it up. And I'm sure all of us have been told that multiple times in your life. Suck it up, Buttercup, I heard over here one. So yeah, for you, I remember with your boss telling you that, you know, that wasn't valid, and that's not fair.
I don't think just because you're
replayed him
a
the moment.
man or white, you can't be abused. I was told that growing up. I think abuse kind of requires a power dynamic, and like even like all of us, we're white men. There's always somebody above us. There's a richer, whiter man, I guess. So like, what is exactly the top? Because there's always somebody, I think, above us to abuse us, and that's just not really talked about.
Really quickly, I just want to do one thing. There's going to be no talking. It's the last question I have, and you cannot elaborate on your opinion either way, is the era of white men is over.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Really wanted to elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What? No! What does that mean? I don't know what that means.